production currently of Titus Andronicus, and the director of the show and one of the managing directors of the theater company, Mr. Scott Kinsey. And thank you once again, gentlemen, for joining us here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, as we mentioned, this is the inaugural production for your new theater company, and it's always important to set a tone, and I think you've done an interesting striking out with both this not often seen play and done in an interesting style in a very uniquely original and appropriate venue. So I thought that the cast did a great job. Things were done both in a bit of alternatively minimal way, but appropriately. You know, it's not hidden in a costume drama. It's done very engagingly and very much to involve that promenade style audience.
Oh, well, thank you, Michael. Maybe actually I should just say a word about promenade.
Sure, absolutely.
Because I know that some people in the theater-going community in Chicago.
Yeah, and we've hinted a little bit about it, but let's go into a little more detail.
The idea behind promenade basically is just simply that there's no separation between the audience and the actors. That the space that the play's taking place in, the environment, is exactly the same place that the audience is sitting, standing, moving about.
Right.
And so it's a completely immersive 360-degree experience. So if you want to walk up to an actor and view what's going on in the scene from any angle that you want, you can. You're completely allowed to do so. There, with very few exceptions, there's no place on our set that you're not allowed to go. You're encouraged to explore it, and it's designed for that. Obviously, there are going to be moments where if some bit of stage business or violence or action staging is about to occur, you might be politely asked to move.
Pardon me, there's a sword battle about to take place.
Right, no, and it's not
an Elizabethan.
Right.
Yes.
It's totally in character.
Absolutely.
And there's, it's not a sword fight type of drama.
No,
so it's
but
not,
there is some violence in it, and quite a bit actually, on and off, but it's certainly appropriately and within the elements of the story. So yeah, it was a very interesting way, and that does have a lot of historical basis, does it not? The promenade style.
Well, I mean, to an extent, yes. I mean, it's less presentational than a lot of theater tends to be, but
Right.
I think the thing that draws me to it, I noticed something about the preview performance that you attended. There was one moment, and it was after a particularly intense scene, and so the audience had kind of cleared out of the middle area, and I think it was one of those instances where everyone was kind of like sitting or perching sort of right on it. And what it really felt like was like this, it could have been any time in history. Just a bunch of people almost like crowding around a fire, like listening to some sort of primal story,
enraptured by what was engaging them. Yeah,
exactly. And that's kind of the big thing that we want to do at Dream Logic. I mean, I'm all for great production value. You know what I mean?
And by no means was it. It wasn't like, oh, this was, hey kids, let's put on a show. I mean, clearly there's production value and there's artistic choices, and I thought it was all of a piece, and it worked well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I'm really not a fan of production concepts that make you too aware of them. Like, I don't want you to come into a show and go, ooh, what a lovely picture, all the money that you spent. I mean, that's
I
great.
can't wait for the helicopter to come down.
Right, and the leader's
in the middle,
in the second half, and it's going to be...
That's right. You'll love that part of it. Well,
I go home humming the chandelier.
What I loved about the treatment of this particular production is the fact that because the violence itself is not gratuitous,
right?
I mean, in the show itself, of course it's gratuitous. There's a lot of incidents of violence, but it's handled in a way that forces you to confront the psychological reality of the violence. And in many respects, that's more terrifying, because gratuitous violence, with if you have blood spurting and spatter and all this, it's much easier, I think, to distance yourself,
right,
and to kind of say, how did they do that? What's going on there?
Not to mention sort of off-stage implied violence, such as, and we see a lot in Hamlet. as well. So this one it's there, it's in your face, but you also see the repercussions and implications of it as well, both on the lives of those involved and on their psyches.
Right.
So yeah, thought it was powerfully well done. Yeah. Interesting. So, no.
Well, and I think that as a cast, and I can speak for myself, but I know that other folks in the cast have expressed that as well. It really has forced us to turn inward and to examine those emotions in a very deliberate way. And Scott's been a wonderful director from the standpoint of channeling those emotions and helping us discover that part of ourselves and then apply it to the character.
And I can say absolutely that it was so well conveyed between you and the actress who plays your daughter, so strongly in the second half of the play, especially considering that in that part of the play she is a ghostly presence without any lines, unfortunately, because of what's happened to her.
Yes.
So but it was really interestingly and strongly done.
Yeah, and I just want to put in a plug for the rest of the cast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, you said earlier I was in the lead role. More correctly, I'm in the title role. Of
Absolutely.
The show. There are some incredible parts in this show. Really deep, rich characters. There isn't a single one of them, I think, that's existing on a surface level. And the team that's doing the show is amazing. So.
Yeah, it was a good job. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I wanted to express my appreciation for that, Kurt. Kind words to me and kind words to the rest of the cast. As I was kind of saying, after the performance on Friday, this piece is really very personal to me. I mean, I think it's fascinating and it's underdone, but it like you said, it's not really about the violence. As we've said all throughout. The mistake I think people make with this is they make it some sort of like macabre burlesque on the excess of the blood and the gore. You can go that way, and that I'm sure there's a flavor for every taste. Some people would enjoy that interpretation of it, and that's great. More power to them. There's room for many interpretations, but to me,
I'd hate to see the Gallagher version where everyone in the first two rows needs to wear plastic wrap.
If you go to Wikipedia to look up Titus Andronicus, the first thing that it says is that this was Shakespeare in his Quentin Tarantino phase.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Our production is more about Shakespeare and maybe his Alfred Hitchcock phase.
Yeah. No, I like that.
That's an interesting take.
I had not heard it said quite that, but I think that's what we're getting at, actually. And on a follow-up note to the cast, one of the things that I've been most impressed with in this is because it is such a tremendously powerful story. The people that viewed it at our previews came away so obviously moved by the experience, so obviously affected, and we want to do that, but it doesn't work if everyone isn't serving that same goal, and every single person in this cast is just so insanely committed to telling this story powerfully and truthfully in an exciting way that's engaging people, and I really couldn't ask for a better group of people to be doing this. So I definitely am glad to hear that that's the response that everyone's been giving.
Yeah, and I understand this was it's a bit of a theatrical comeback for you, Kurt.
Yeah, the kind of work that I've been doing over the past several years.
Yes, I understand. Us old guys, we don't mind counting down the years. It's experience.
That's right.
Well-wizened experience.
Really focused much more in musical theater. I've been writing musical theater and doing sound design, musical direction, that kind of stuff. But my graduate experience right out of college was very heavily involved in stage acting, and for me, it's a return to that kind of role for the first time in some time, and it's humbling to work with a cast, that are significantly younger than I am, and yet knows so much more about Shakespeare. I mean, these guys are amazingly educated and knowledgeable about the topic.
Yeah, and that was very interesting, but boy, that is impactful to think of this as sort of a bit of a return to stage, because you were just powerful and poetic, intensive and focused, and just a delight, even when it was down to small bits of business such as twirling your cane slightly and stuff. No, it was.
We're not gonna say anything more about the cane, right? Because there's a secret there.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right.
If you want to know the secret, you got to come.
That's right. That's right. That's Dream Logic Theater Works. Take a look. And the next few weekends, I'll be doing Titus Andronicus down in Beverly at the historic Hopkinson House on the south side there. And boy, yeah, it was quite an interesting production. And it's funny the thing you mentioned too about it being personal to you. I wondered if you've got family coming to see it, then to make them question how personal it is in your viewpoint, since it is in couple of intricately combined families clashing.
Well, it's a family. I mean, that's the thing about it. It's a family drama. You know, people let it get kind of out of hand in the grandiosity of it, and it's ultimately just two families that wrong each other, and one family wrongs the other, and then they revenge, and then the other side revenges, and it just gets amping up higher and higher on either side, and that cycle it gets completely out of hand until it destroys virtually everyone. And I think we can all relate to that on a deeply personal level, where no one wants to admit that they were wrong.
Right. Yeah.
I think the contemporary show that I have watched just recently that mirrors this more than anything else that I've seen thus far is actually The Wire.
Okay.
Sure. It's everybody ends up.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Right. I understand. Right. We've even joked a little bit because I recently saw the recent the current Second City main stage production called Everyone Dies in the End, and it's ironic in that's almost an accurate subtitle for Titus Andronicus, where a couple people walk away, but not quite no one's in the same state they were when they started, and some of that's very, very poignant and noted throughout the show. And gosh, even the talking about sort of an interesting combination of Hitchcock and Tarantino is who would have thought of in the various dismemberment involved that Shakespeare wouldn't forget to make some hand jokes, and he did nicely.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, it doesn't. What's fun about the show is that it doesn't shy away from some of the humor, and there's really moving and kind of funny in a chilling way scene that you have, Kurt, where your character even sees the sort of grim, macabre humor of the situation.
Oh, absolutely.
And legitimately just kind of loses it for a second on a multitude of levels. It's because it's hilarious.
Well, it is.